Hey, listen up and hear me out. Today we're going to be going over how to find your main in Predecessor. In MOBAs, having a main or a pool of champs that you can play is one of the most paramount things you can do to be successful in the game. Really honing in your skills, not only as that role, but also your champ who plays that role. So there's various reasons on why you should try to find a main in the game. Have a pool of people that you feel comfortable and confident playing as well as maybe I can try to help you pick some champs for those roles and kind of get your brain turning on what your play style is and how this video can help you. Before we get into all the content, welcome to Chad Rails Plays. This is my first video on my second YouTube channel. My first channel, main channel, is going to be completely dedicated towards Arena Breakout Infinite, which is going to be coming out in a few short months. But at the time being, I can't really sit on my hands and do nothing. So I've been completely addicted to this game. This is my first MOBA ever that I've really dove into. I played League a handful of times, Dota like once, and nothing really stuck for me. I tried Smite as well, and Predecessor really is the first one for me that I was truly addicted to. I love watching League. I like the ideas of MOBAs, but actually playing them has never been my thing. But came Predecessor, and here we are about 100 hours deep in just a couple weeks. So I hope you like the video. If you like it, like it. If you love it, make sure you are subscribed and go check out my main channel if you want to see more content. I appreciate you watching. I hope this video helps, and I will see you in the next one. You ready? So the first important question that we need to ask as well as answer is, what is the importance of having a main in Predecessor? Just like majority of games, getting good mechanically, being comfortable and confident in your playstyle and through specific champs will equals more success for you. Picking somebody over and over again, learning their abilities, learning their combos, their synergies with players, as well as counters of enemies and how you might get countered. On top of all of that, the items and how you build each champ can be very daunting. So finding somebody that you're comfortable with, you enjoy playing and matches your playstyle, and then learning how to build on top of that is gonna find more success for you. The next question is not something that I can necessarily answer for you, but giving you the right questions to give yourself the answers should be helpful. What you need to ask yourself is, what is your play style? Assuming that this is not the first video game that you've ever played ever, in other games, how have you played them? Do you like to be a tank role with a lot of HP and sustained fighting? Do you like to be the glass cannon where you do insane amount of damage, but you're a little bit squishier so you might die quicker? Do you like to be the assassin where stealth is your ally and you like to jump and flank people? Are you a support where you like to be in the back line and making sure that your allies are getting healed or pulled into position where they're safe? After you answer that, then ask yourself, do you want to play a ranged champion that has a crossbow, a gun, whatever it may be, or a melee based champion? Do you also want to do physical brute damage with your fists, or would you like to do magic power where a lot of your abilities are doing magical damage versus physical damage? Now that we've answered the two questions of why is it important to have a main and what it means for your playstyle in finding a main, the two remaining questions are going to be, what role are you going to try to fill and get better at, and how builds work in the game. So here we have a blank Predecessor map. This part of the video is just completely made to help you understand some of the nuances with each role within the game, how it might work, what champs might be good for it, and how to use that information to help you better understand what you might like in synergy with how your playstyle works. Now obviously you'll be spawning in on either side of the map with your core and your 3 inner inhibitors. That is very obvious, but it is a 3-lane map separated by the jungle. Now for our first and very obvious role, we are gonna go down mid lane, which is going to be the center lane of the map. Majority of the champions that occupy this are going to be ranged. There are a few people who can be melee in this, but there are a lot of assassins that can do a lot of burst damage, jump in and out of fights with a lot of mobility. A disclaimer in this while we're discussing this is that any champ can technically play any role, and some of them may not be recommended in the game. Maybe having a mid laner like Gideon playing carry, so on and so forth. While you're going to be taking your mid lane, there is going to be the river buff, which is the blue line through the map. There's going to be 2 buffs that you will be trying to get and fight for on the other mid laner. Now, mid lane does level probably the fastest in the game because they have the ability to clear their waves of minions the fastest. So once you start really winning your lane, maybe you get a kill or 2 off of the other mid laner. It is absolutely your job to try and leave the lane and go to either one of the lanes on the outsides. So the pros of mid lane is you scale pretty quickly, level up pretty quickly. If you're a ranged type of playstyle, this is a great starter role. Because you do level quickly, you have the ability to go to other lanes more frequently. The downside is because you are in the middle, everybody can converge to you. You are by both of the big jungle buffs, so your lane will be occupied a lot. Our next role is going to be off lane. In League, this is known as top lane or the Chad lane. Generally speaking, this is usually the second fastest leveling lane, and you're going to be going towards the Scion buff, which is going to be over here. Now, whether you're on either side of the map, it could be to your right or to your left, but just know that the Scion buff on the outside signifies it's going to be the off lane. In this lane will be your tanks and a lot of your melee-based champs. There's a lot of pressure on the side because if you do start getting snowballed and you keep getting killed by the person in your lane, they will level faster than you, and it's really hard to catch up in this lane. There's a lot of importance on this lane because you are usually a tank type of champ. And if you're able to scale quicker than the other people on their team, when those team fights develop, you're able to frontline a lot more, a lot easier, do a lot more damage, and hopefully help your team win those team fights. Our last lane is going to be the duo lane, which is composed of a carry, which is your DPS role, and your support. Again, it's going to be either to your right or to your left, depending on where you spawn, but know that there is the gold buff on the outside of it that will signify which lane is yours. This is a really interesting lane to play in because there are 4 people in this lane, 2 being you and your teammate and 2 being the enemy, of course. You have to share XP, so making sure that your carry gets the XP early on so they can level quicker to do more damage, because these are going to be your glass cannons. Towards mid and late game, if your DPS or your carry role is leveled and has a good build, they will be shredding everybody, even tanks, and nobody really stands a chance. But if they don't scale correctly and level slower, they become incredibly squishy because everybody else's health is so much higher. As a support role, this is where you're going to be living and making sure that if enemy teams try to come into your lane, that you're keeping your carry out of harm's way, as well as trying to get any secondary gold kills or whatever it may be to your carry. The carry roles can vary. There's a lot of off lane type of heroes that actually are decent supports, one being the new champ Terra, but a lot of your carry roles are going to be predominantly ranged. Just know, if you want to be the glass cannon and you want to be the attack role who does the most damage, you need to make sure that you're scaling quickly as possible because you are the most ineffective in the early game. And our last role is going to be the jungle. This is the role that I actually main. Most of the people who do play off lane can also jungle. Your job is to completely clear these camps with these buffs. Each side is the same symmetrically, so you're going to have your 2 camps with your red and your blue buffs. Making sure that you keep track of these buffs and keeping your camps cleared, as well as trying to gank lanes. The best junglers know how to spend their time wisely. If you are clearing your red camp, let's say over here, but your off lane is getting killed, it is your job to pretty much stop what you're doing and come over and help. Same thing if you're on the other side, making sure that you are constantly bouncing between each lane and also clearing your camps. So who's good and who's bad? I know that there are probably a million tier lists. I'm just here to give you 2 champs for each role, and so that kind of helps you a little bit understanding who's good and who's bad. There's a bunch of tier lists online. I plan on making one for myself, but definitely comment if you want to see something like that. 2 champs each role. Who are the GOATs in each one? So first, I do main Aurora. I almost have her max affinity, which is gonna be sick, but I've always been a mobility player. I've always used movement. I've always been an SMG player in Call of Duty. Movement has been my biggest strength and weakness because I'll take really stupid fights and angles because I try to move too much. But that is why I play Aurora, because her mobility is an 8. She has a lot of escape ability, as well as she is very strong in team fights. That's just how I play games in general outside of Predecessor. That's just how my play style is. Now we go to off lane. Now a lot of these heroes, like I said, will be the same ones that we're gonna see in jungle. If I'm gonna give you 2 recommendations to spend your money on, one is going to be Grux. He's very strong. He recently got a nerf, but he's incredibly tanky. He does bleed damage where if somebody tries to run away from you and they're still ticking for bleed damage, you can absolutely still finish them without even being in a fight. He's fairly easy to use. His abilities are pretty straightforward, so Grux is definitely my number 1 off lane.
Everyone.
The second person is actually tough. I've got about 3 or 4 as I'm staring here that we're gonna be good, but you know what? I'm just gonna go with Zarus as my second off lane. He's incredibly strong. He's got great sustained fighting, and it's definitely somebody that you could pick up and try to get good with. Because those are both a little bit more expensive with your credits, if you want to get somebody off of Rip or early, Greystone, Fang, Mal, Crunch, I think are cheaper. I don't really remember. All of these guys are good as well. Let's move on to mid lane real quick. As you can see, what I was trying to say earlier is everybody here except one is range. Count is going to be the only melee one, but she's burst damage. She's get in, get out type of mentality. But nevertheless, I think we're gonna go Gideon number 1 still off lane. He's incredibly strong. When he scales and you get his magic power up, his abilities do so much damage, and his ult, even though they nerfed it, is still one of the best abilities in the game. If you have everybody together fighting and you go up in the air and throw a black hole, it almost always is a guaranteed win if you get people inside of it. My second one is actually going to be for Morgesh. As you can see, I don't really play a lot of mid laning because I don't have anybody unlocked, but when I have a good Morgesh or I'm going against a Morgesh, she is so hard to fight against and amazing to have with you. Again, bleed damage, her ult can pretty much kill anybody who is low HP from across the map as long as she has them marked. Morgesh is definitely a solid pickup. I still have yet to play her, but the abilities that I see, the damage that she does, she's incredibly scary. Next up, let's go to jungle. As I said, a lot of the heroes that are going to be in off lane are also going to be in jungle. I'm going to give a biased number 1 to Aurora for jungling, only because she does clear camps the fastest. With her abilities and her passives, she does damage around her without even doing anything. So clearing camps with Aurora is incredibly efficient for jungling. Again, with her mobility, she can go between camps quickly. She can wall off things that may need to get walled off if you're trying to separate teams or isolate enemies. So I will give her number 1. Number 2 is going to be Chimera. I'm pretty sure he's cheaper since he is one of like the OGs, I think, in the game. Like, he hasn't gotten out of his season. He just came with the game. Incredibly strong, a lot of damage. Mobility is kind of insane. He's great for coming out into lanes from the jungle and ganking with one of his abilities that leaps onto people. He's a problem when people know how to play him. He's definitely one of those champs that people have gotten so good with him that he's really tough to fight when you know what you're doing. Next up, we're gonna have our supports. Again, I haven't really played a whole lot of this. I just know that when I have a Muriel on my team, she's absolutely insane. Her ult is so good that she can TP to anywhere in the map if somebody is in danger. So if you're getting ganked or if you're down, whatever it may be, she can come in and try to save the day. I am in favor of having a tank support over a non-tank support. One of my good buddies is a Richter main, and the things that he's been able to do with Richter and pulling somebody in like a Roadhog hook and getting people back to you, especially as Aurora, if he hooks in somebody and I can use my ability to freeze them or stun them and we can just finish off a kill. I think Richter is incredibly strong, who also recently just got big buffed. So Richter gonna be my number 2 with Muriel. Carries are going to be tough. Again, a lot of these people can play mid lane because, like I said before, mid lane is also going to be your range types. Sparrow is definitely going to be the number one. When you get her scaled, when you get her abilities, when you get her damage up with her items, oh my god, she is insane. She just holds left click and she throws out so much damage with it. Yeah, definitely Sparrow number one, and I'm actually going to go Murdoch number two. It would have been Grim, but Grim recently got a really big nerf because of how powerful he was. But Murdoch is incredibly strong. You'll see a lot of the top players actually play Murdoch. Again, great abilities. His ult is kind of like Morgesh's, where they can pretty much shoot anywhere on the map to try to finish somebody off. So those are gonna be my two for each lane and role. The last thing that I want to show you guys is Omeda.city. I will put the website in the description, but this has definitely been a game changer for myself. There's so much information on this website just about how win rates are going with each champs, MMRs. I mean, just so much information, how rank distribution is going, the different heroes that people are using, because if you're one of those people like myself, you're like, oh my god, the number one person in the world is using Murdoch. Maybe I want to be a carry main and I want to play Murdoch, right? Or we can go into different items that you might want to build with your people. This is another great tool. But my favorite thing, definitely, let's say again, me being an Aurora main, there are different builds, most popular builds here. You can actually filter this in different ways with roles or whatever, which is going to be on this one, I believe. Yeah, so if we want to go, let's say I want to look at people who are ranked to diamond and use jungle in Aurora. I want to filter that. And this is the items that they're using. So this is the crush that they're choosing. We look at their slot one. There is the highest win rate by choosing Fire Blossom first, but it is also chosen significantly more getting Magnify first. So just something to keep in mind is to look at, like, okay, these players who are at diamond, who are significantly higher than me, are using these items on these builds. And you can also completely just go look at builds. So if you look at Aurora, Roll, Jungle, you can see all of these builds right here that have, you know, thumbs up, thumbs down, and that kind of stuff. So definitely use this website. Again, I'll put it down in the description. I hope this helped. Thank you guys for watching, and I live stream on Kick. This is a new journey for me on my second channel, and if you made it this far, you're amazing, and I appreciate you, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.